Hello everyone, it's Thomas Jujube, and welcome to Talking Jujube, where I talk about the month's latest episodes in different shows that I watch. Today, I'm going over Transformers Cyberverse for the first time, Kamen Rider Geo also for the first time, and then Lupin vs Pato Ranger and Power Rangers Beyond the Grid also for the first time. We're three for four in new stuff on the show. So today I'm going over that, and also just a bit of an announcement for this series. You'll notice I didn't do one last month. That's because I was really tired and I just got back from vacation and I didn't really feel like reviewing the episodes. So what I'm doing is I'm changing it up. I'm not going to go through each episode, talk about this, talk about that. I'm really just going to kind of summarize all the episodes and talk about like my pros and cons for each set of episodes, so these don't drag on for so long, because that's been happening a lot. So without further ado, let's get to it. So Transformers Cyberverse debuted at the beginning of the month, I believe. If not, well, we're reviewing it in this month. I think it goes up to episode 5, so I think it was the beginning of the month. They've been releasing the episodes on Hasbro's channel on YouTube. The Hasbro channel on YouTube has been posting the Transformers Cyberverse episodes, but it's only in the US, so RIP if you're outside the US. But honestly, Transformers Cyberverse is not bad. It's not perfect, I would say. It at most points it feels pretty cheesy, kind of like, oh haha, that's funny, but it's not really that funny, or something like that. It feels pretty cheesy at certain points, but it's not really that bad by any means. It's not terrible. It's not garbage. It's pretty decent. So it's basically follows Bumblebee. As we know, it follows Bumblebee and his memories. I like how there's a balance between going into Bumblebee's memories and Bumblebee outside the memories. So we start the show with Bumblebee and Windblade discovering Bumblebee and realizing, oh, he can't remember anything. But then in the next episode, I believe, then we find a Decepticon ship, and then we spend the rest of that episode inside Bumblebee's head, going through some memories. Same with episode 3, episode 4, I believe, and then episode 5, if I have these episodes right. Then we go into Windblade leaves, and we spend the whole episode outside the cockpit, and Windblade's fighting Seekers, which is pretty cool. There's a lot of there's not a lot of Decepticons. I was about to say there's a lot of Decepticons. No, we only have 3 Decepticons that we've seen. Actually, we've only seen Slipstream, who's like the big boss Decepticon Seeker, at least on Earth. We've only seen Slipstream, Thundercracker, and another one whose name I don't know. I think it's Nova Storm, but it's another female Seeker. I thought that was Slipstream, but I was like, what's Slipstream doing not being the leader? It's not Slipstream. So I don't really know who the other female Decepticon is, but the other ones are obviously Slipstream and Thundercracker. So it's cool to see we have a few Decepticons, but we obviously are seeing a lot of Decepticons in Bumblebee's flashbacks. I really like the flashbacks. They really are kind of fleshing out Cybertron. I know in the next few episodes we're going to look at Cybertron before the Cybertronian War, which is something I don't think we've ever done in Transformers. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'm sure the War for Cybertron video games probably show Cybertron before the war, but I know that I don't think we've ever shown Cybertron before the war in movies or any shows. Maybe comics as well. Probably comics as well. But at least in moving animation media, I guess that's how you phrase it. I don't think we've ever seen Cybertron before the war, so that's pretty cool. But we haven't seen Cybertron before the war yet. Here we're watching Bumblebee seeing Cybertron during the war, and we see Megatron, that one other purple Decepticon whose name I also don't remember because she's there for all of 2 seconds. We see Optimus Prime, we see Grimlock, Optimus Prime and Grimlock and Bumblebee. We see them all go to one planet and they're looking for Energon, and then we see that the planet is filled with creatures that also feed off Energon. And then after like Optimus Primes that are always like, you know, kind of angry, shall we say, and leave it at that, it's kind of refreshing to see an Optimus Prime that's like, no, we can't kill these species, whatever the species is, even though they're attacking us. Bumblebee, I think, even says that, like, but Optimus, they were I don't know, killing us, right? You know, are we not gonna, you know, take the Energon? He says, no, this species is feeding off the Energon. They need the Energon. That's really cool. It's really refreshing to get an Optimus Prime that's not very war driven. But then also in an earlier flashback, we see the same Optimus Prime fighting it out in the Great War, on Cybertron. So it's pretty cool. Overall, I think Transformers Cyberverse is pretty solid. Not much really happened in these first 2 episodes, but we do know that the Autobots are probably on Earth somewhere, because Bumblebee ended up on Earth and he was in the Ark. And obviously, with the Seekers, the small Seeker squad we saw, we also know that Seekers are on Earth as well. So it's kind of like a race to look for the Autobots, because they're also trying to look for the Allspark. The Allspark, looking for the Allspark is kind of a generic thing. You know, they had to do that for the first movie. I think they had to do that for Transformers Animated as well. Yeah, even though the Autobots had the Allspark, it was a little different. But the Allspark is kind of making the series revolve around here. But it's not just the Allspark. It's interesting that's also, we have to find the Autobots as well. And they're finding the Autobots with Bumblebee's memories. And yeah, I think that's pretty cool. So overall, Transformers Cyberverse has had its debut, and I think it's been pretty decent. I think it can really grow from this point, but it's definitely not bad, and it's not terrible. And yeah, I think it's just pretty good. Alright, so man, am I mixed on Kamen Rider Geo. It's a bit like, honestly, I'm really mixed about this. I don't hate it, but I wouldn't say I'm entirely loving it. But honestly, the more I watch, the more I am kind of loving it. So I don't really know how I feel about this entirely. If you haven't seen my review on the first episode, you can click that in the corner over here. I've already gone over that and went over that in a separate video since it was the premiere of the new Rider series. Here I'm going over episodes 2 to also 5, I believe. Yeah, that will be 5. The Forza episode. So let's start with episode 2, and essentially the reason I'm not really digging the series so far, or not, the reason why I'm kind of mixed on it. Essentially, the time travel makes absolutely no sense, like entirely no sense. Like, they start with Build, which makes sense because Build was our most recent Kamen Rider series, but Build has like a separate timeline, right? So, or it's like a different dimension, so it makes no sense why they're able to travel back in time, or like kind of maybe because of like split dimensions. But then like why like is like why I don't really understand this time travel. Like, so a time jacker goes back, puts in another rider watch and a bean, right, in the time of that rider, and then that another rider goes around and is like collecting people or doing whatever that specific monster wants to do. Then from there it just like it basically keeps doing that until 2018, where we see our riders, Geo and Gates, where they find out about this another rider, and they're like, oh, now we have to go back to the time of this rider and beat this rider with the powers of the rider it's copying, because they need to find that rider in the current time because it has the ride watch they need. I'm not even gonna get into why the ride watches can be formed, but it just makes it's kind of weird the way it works, just because like you eliminate his timeline, you eliminate the rider from time. So let's say Build, they eliminated Build from time, and Build then goes about his daily business until Geo finds him, and then suddenly he remembers Geo and gives him a ride watch. The same applies for Emu in a way in the X8 episode, and not for the Forza episode, because I assume he gave the ride watch to Gentaro, and then Gentaro then gave the teacher guy, whose name I don't know, he then gave him the Forza ride watch, and then yeah, that happened. So it is a little strange, but honestly I think the reason I don't like it so much is just because of Build. Not because I don't like Build, but because I like Build, I love Build, and the timeline, just because the timeline's weird, it made the episode feel weird. Like, how are you able to go back here but you don't have here? So that's my only real complaint, because honestly Geo is actually pretty good. Again, I wouldn't say it's amazing by any means, but I would not say it's absolutely garbage terrible by any means as well. It's straight in the middle, maybe a little more to the I'm loving it side, because honestly I've been really enjoying it. I love the suit designs. They're really crazy and out there, but I really like how they look like the rider they're based off of, but they're still a little different and like more bulky and armored, but they still have all the quirks and whatnot of the past rider. For example, X8 has the giant Gashicom breakers for arms. And also, while we're talking about X8, first of all, I think that X8 episode is my favorite. Yeah, the X8 arc is my favorite, not just because I love X8, but mainly because I thought it was the most well done. It felt like it was paced really good. It felt like we had like a straight narrative, and then the mystery was kind of interesting. Also, they don't ever explain why X8 attacked Gates and what's his name, Sogo. They don't explain why they were attacked by Emu. And also, that brings up a point, like Emu transforms with a gamer driver, right? And then the next second after the Another Rider transformed, the next second now he doesn't know who X8 is. So it's like, I don't know what's going on here. Like, that's not really time travel, that's just he forgot who's X8. I don't know. But I'm moving on from the time travel shenanigans there. We're gonna forget about that. So X8 arc I thought was really cool. I really like the X8 suit. I really like that arc. The X8 Another Rider too looks really scary. I don't want that. I don't want that anywhere near me because that's terrifying to look at. But yeah, the X8 arc I thought was really cool. I thought it was the most well done. Build episode 2, probably the worst done, just because we had the debut episode, and then from there we had to jump straight into a tribute to Kamen Rider Build. Granted, they didn't have to do that big of a tribute because Build just ended, so I guess it makes sense they didn't give it its own separate 2-episode arc, and they just lumped it in with the premiere. But let's get into the Forze episode, because actually that might be my favorite. Honestly, I need to see how the Fies part of it works out, but I think it's really well done, because it's just really they really change things up in this episode, and we're only 5 episodes in. For example, the beginning, we start off with the Time Jackers with Aura and Wool. I think his name is Wool. We start off with Aura and Wool, and they're just talking to each other. Wool's like, haha, Aura, you thought your plan would work, and it didn't. And she's like, oh, you think you're so precious because you're like a little kid. And then they're in the stopped time, by the way. And all of a sudden, their time stops. And then in walks Swartz. I think his name is Swartz. In walks Swartz, and he's like, alright guys, boyos and girl, we need to get this working, because Gio's one step closer to becoming Oma Gio, which I'll talk about in a second. I don't think Gio's Oma Gio entirely, but anyway, he says we're one step closer to having Gio become Oma Gio, and we need to put a new king in place. And that's all he says, and he walks away. And then Swartz also is like more merciless with his tactics of creating the Another Rider as well. Like, the other ones are like, let's make a contract. Swartz shows up, he's like, you're in Another Rider, and stabs him with the Another Watch. Now, this is my theory for who this Another Fies is. I think the episode's probably out by now, so we'll see if I'm right or wrong. But I think this Another Fies that came out of the Another Forze, we'll notice in the beginning of the episode, the person who becomes Another Forze is like, what happened to my power? So I think this rider is Another Fies. He became Another Fies in the past, because in the preview you can see Aura for some reason, where this is Swartz, Another Rider, his intended heir to the throne of the king of the world, or Japan, I guess, or something. Basically, we see Aura, so I think Aura might have created an Another Fies back in time, further back in time, in 2003 when Fies came out. But then this Another Fies loses his power, and then because of that, Swartz is able to show up and is like, hey, you want power? I can give you another ride watch. And then that's kind of why this guy is not like crazy. That's kind of why he's in his correct state of mind, I guess, seemingly. But then he also does the same Forze hair squeak and then the Uchukita kind of looking pose. But then we get another Forze, or not another Forze, we get Forze armor in that episode as well. Forze armor is awesome looking. I finally realized, it took a while, finally realized why I like it so much. It's because it doesn't look like a Kamen Rider, it looks more like a Transformer than a Kamen Rider. That's really cool. Kamen Rider Transformers crossover confirmed, guys. So another Forze turns into Another Fies at the end as well. So, I mean, honestly, this episode was really cool because it brought up a lot of interesting questions and topics that I'm interested to see them like kind of continue doing this. Like, we could get more, like, this is only episode 5 and they're already changing the way Another Riders work, so that could be interesting in the future to see. Haha, I get it, future, no pun intended. It could be interesting to see in the future they bring out, I don't know, like let's say Another Rider Gaim then turns into Another Rider Double, which then turns into Another Rider Wizard. Like, I don't know, like this long chain of Another Riders. Like, it's one dude and you're just pummeling this guy to the ground because he keeps turning into Another Rider. So that would be kind of interesting and kind of funny in a sadistic kind of way. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, but Anyway, overall, I did really enjoy Gio's episodes. Also, I just want to talk about Oma Gio, because they are bringing up the question if Gio Sogo Tokiwa becomes Oma Gio. I don't think this guy's going to become Oma Gio. Not because of the way he is, but just because, I mean, it is partly because of the way he is. Like, how, like, 50 years can change a person, but how in 50 years does he go from a little boy, essentially, who wants to become king and help everyone, to a evil tyrant overlord who's, like, you know, trying to kill everyone? So either he is, the Gio does become Oma Gio and is, like, I don't know, just for some reason that happens. We know, I think, I was thinking, everyone thinks it's not Oma Gio, or it's not Sogo. Some people say it's Gaze, some people say it's the dude who runs the clock shop, the uncle, which it could be. That would be a funny twist. But I think it is Sogo in a way, because not Swords, Wars comes back in time and keeps referring to him as his Mao, his overlord, the Demon King. So he, like, could just be because he knows he's going to become Gio, and the next logical step is Oma Gio. But he keeps coming back to Sogo, so obviously he thinks Sogo is the Demon King. So then what if Sogo gets not time traveled, he gets time traveled, yes. What if Sogo gets mind controlled by a time jacker, and then that leads him to become evil? Like, I don't know, like, he could just be, like, tricked, because Sogo is kind of naive, honestly. Sogo could be tricked by a time tracker and then becomes Oma Gio, and then Oma Gio's under their control. So they essentially, the time trackers essentially win. So now we're trying to stop the time trackers from winning. I don't know, but it seems like we are putting Sogo on the path to becoming Oma Gio, because every time he collects a ride watch, he erases that rider from existence. So I don't know, we'll have to see how this plays out. Overall, I did enjoy the last 4 episodes of Gio, and I also enjoyed the first episode. The first episode I was a little mixed on, but as the show went on, I'm actually really digging it, and I'm excited to see where Kamen Rider Gio is going to go. Alright, so this month's Lupin Ranger vs. Pato Ranger wasn't amazing once again, but it wasn't really that bad either. Basically, my problem with this month is kind of my problem with Lupin Ranger vs. Pato Ranger as, like, in general, which is that these episodes didn't really connect with each other at all. It's just like, here's a story, here's a story, here's a story, here's a story. It just didn't feel very cohesive at all, because our first episode is about Kairi and Keiichiro going on, like, a vacation of sorts, I guess. And Kairi and Keiichiro have this weird thing with, like, a little girl. What they're trying to do is they're trying to find this girl's, like, little earring, and then all of a sudden Keiichiro finds it, but Kairi has one in his hand, and it's never really explained what happened. Like, why did he have one? Why did Keiichiro find another one? But that's not the point. Keiichiro went on vacation to get a trigger machine, and Kairi stole it, and Keiichiro also let Kairi steal it from him, which is something you wouldn't expect of Keiichiro, because Keiichiro, there was a big fire going on, and Keiichiro decided, you know, let the Lupin Rangers take it, because I'm sure he'll douse the fire, because Kairi still had it, and he's like, well, I'm not getting it back. So Kairi, Lupin Red, please go save all the people, and he did that. But the weird part about this episode, that first episode of the month, is that it's never explained, that whole thing with the girl and the earring. I didn't really understand that, because Kairi had one, but then Keiichiro found one. So I was just really confused. I was like, what's going on here? Did you find her earring? Did you steal her earring? I don't know. It was pretty confusing for me, at least. Maybe I'm just dumb and I didn't really understand. But then the next episode after that was just about a gangler that surrendered, which was an interesting idea. The gangler surrenders. It's a little weird with Tsukasa and the gangler, like, talking with each other, and this gangler thinks he's gonna live a normal life when he looks like a giant rubber monster. But I don't know, they probably were gonna work it out anyway. But then the interesting part is that his Lupin collection piece was turning him good. That was kind of interesting, and I liked that. It was just a funny idea that this Lupin collection piece made him good. So when the Lupin Rangers came and stole his collection piece, now he's evil. Ha ha ha. Or no, actually he gave it to Tsukasa because he had to escape. But it was still just a funny turn of events, like, oh, here's my Lupin collection piece. Bam, now I'm evil. But this was the one link with episodes which I did like, which is that he says that he was a status double.
But what's her name? Goshe is stealing safes. So she stole his safe, and he explains she stole his safe. And we see she's working on this weird experiment. And then she shows up with the weird experiment. I don't think it ever gets named. And then she steals the safe from the good gangler and attaches it and creates what is termed by Noel as a status quintuple, which is a crazy name. And has 5 Lupin collection pieces, which we also later find out are all phone morphers from different series. I think we got like Gokaiger, probably gonna say the American names because I know that better. We got Gokaiger, we got Bokenger, Operation Overdrive, we got, that's all. Oh, we got Magi Ranger, Mystic Force. I think that's all I can remember, but I know they were all cell phones, and that was just that's kind of honestly really funny. That's a nice kind of nudge nudge wink wink, haha, they're all cell phone morphers, get it, haha. That was it for that episode, really. Well, the Gangler good episode, because we end with the giant status quintuple just owning the Pat Rangers because it had all the Lupin collection pieces. And then in the next episode, we see the Lupin Rangers have a short fight with it, and we realize they can't open the safes unless we have 5 people working together to open it. And obviously there are only 4 Lupin Rangers counting Noel, so they need a Pato Ranger, or just someone else I guess, but they decide to use a Pato Ranger. They need a Pato Ranger to also help out, so they decide it has to be Keiichiro to help out. I don't know why, because like Tsukasa is the only Pato Ranger who has actually worked with the Lupin Rangers, so it would have made more sense to have Tsukasa help out, but they use Keiichiro, and we have a duel between Noel and Keiichiro. If Noel wins, Keiichiro has to help open the safe. If Keiichiro wins, then Noel and all the other Lupin Rangers have to turn themselves in. So the stakes were definitely high for this. So we have Lupin X versus Pattern Ichigo, and we find out that Lupin X said that he needs to win because they need to save their loved ones, the Lupin Rangers do. So Keiichiro technically wins, but then he like fakes his loss. So then like it looks like Noel won, but obviously Keiichiro won but faked it so Noel could win. We do know that, you know, or Noel knows that Keiichiro obviously faked it, but he's like, oh well. So then Keiichiro helps out, and the 4 Lupin Rangers and Pattern Ichigo open all 5 safes. They pull it out, and now it's just a 5-safed monster. The thing I really like is that when they destroy the monster and all the safes, like all 5 safes fall, then Goshe shows up and shoots her goo gun 5 times to hit all 5 safes, so all 5 grow and create the monster with its 5 safes. That was kind of cool, a nice little attention to detail. And then we get the return of Good Cool Kaiser VSX for like the 2nd time only, and then we defeat the monster, and it was pretty cool. And then after that, the next episode is just on its own thing, where we had the Lupin Rangers turn into kids. I think it was a little weird, of course, but I thought the kid actors were pretty decent, and it was just kind of funny to see the Lupin Rangers as kids, but they're still like acting like thieves. But the funny part is, like, now that they're kids, it kind of seems like they're just being kids, like, oh, haha, let's play tag. Steals a gun, essentially. And they're like, whoa, he has a gun, and they're following after him. And then Lupin X shows up, oh, thank you, and leaves. Because it's the whole episode with them being kids basically revolved around Umika dropping her gun, and the Pato Rangers took it with them back to their base. So if Umika didn't drop her gun, we wouldn't really have an episode there. But it was fine. I thought it was funny. I didn't think it was too weird. The next episode had the most to do with plot, really, I'd say, aside from probably the status quintuple, because we know that's a thing. Or we're going to see a status pentuple, I think that's, or decatuple, I don't know, the monster with 10 safes, more than 5 safes. That would be pretty crazy. I'd honestly like to see that, because that would be, again, really crazy. But anyway, the status quintuple, pentuple, crazy safe monster, I'd like to see that in the future. But in the last episode, we get the most to do with plot. There's a gun that was Arsene Lupin's personal weapon, his personal piece of the Lupin collection, although you could say goodie might have also been his personal part, but also just shows that Noel is not the first person. Well, actually, I was gonna say it shows Noel's not the first person to modify the collection, but I guess we always knew that because there exists Good Striker in the first place. So I guess the collection always had been modified, but this was his personal piece, had a dial on it, so obviously he intended it for himself, and it was a powerful gun, but then he hides it away. So Noel went to go get it, but he got trapped in this trap. So the Lupin Rangers go to get the gun, and then they're put in this trance where they have to essentially shoot their loved one to forget about their loved one. Toma can't bring himself to do it, Umika can't bring herself to do it, and we're just left with Kairi. And Kairi basically decides, you know what, I'm gonna do it my own way, because his brother is saying that, like, please just forget about me, to revive him. But he's just gonna do it his own way from his brother. He doesn't want to listen to his brother because he has a little brother retaliation instinct. So he shoots his brother in the simulation and basically wins. And I think Arsene Lupin says something like, "You were the most like a thief / Lupin." So I don't know if that's a good or bad thing depending on how Kairi wants to look at it. But he gets the gun. And the funny thing about the monster is that the monster is infatuated with guns of any kind. So he sees this gun that is very, very red and very, very cool looking, and he's like, I need the gun. He keeps referring to it as a cutie, which is really funny. So that brings the monster to the Lupin Rangers. It's kind of funny that he wants the gun, but he doesn't really want it because it's the powerful Lupin Magnum. He just wants it because he has a crush on it. He likes it. That's just a kind of funny thing. So then Kairi is able to use the Lupin Magnum. It really just makes powerful shots that shoots through the earth. It doesn't seem that special yet, but he uses it to defeat the monster. He can even defeat it. He can defeat it in giant form as well, so I guess that does show how powerful it is. And at the end, that's essentially all we get with the Lupin Magnum. So I didn't hate this month of Lupin Ranger vs. Pato Ranger. I don't think I've really ever hated Lupin Ranger vs. Pato Ranger. I think this was fine. I just wish there was a little more that's going on. The only thing that really happened is that we got the Lupin Magnum, and we got the official confirmation of status quintuples. Gaucher's really getting crazy with her experiments and creating crazy 5 saved monsters. So I'm excited to see where Lupin Ranger vs. Pato Ranger will go next with these crazy monster ideas and the Lupin Magnum. Alright, so now let's talk about Power Rangers Beyond the Grid, the new arc in the Power Rangers Boom Studios comic series, which also has been amazing up to this point so far. This issue was pretty good as well. Just a quick recap, not a recap, just my quick thoughts on the Shattered Grid finale, since I didn't review that at all. I didn't like it that much. I didn't think it was bad, but like everything else, honestly, I've reviewed so far, it was pretty meh. It was just like, really? That's how we end the Shattered Grid? Just like no big fight. We had the big fight. We had all the fan service you could ask for. Literally, if you asked for anything else, you'd probably be called a greedy person. But then we just stop and we go right into this weird Draken dimension. Anyway, I'm not talking about that because you've probably already read the Shattered Grid finale. Now we're talking about Beyond the Grid. Now, I think what happened here is essentially when Draken became the ultimate morphine master or what something, and he destroyed all the worlds with the morphin grid inside of it. I think that's what he said, because I mean that's the only way he could destroy realities. He was the morphin grid. The only realities he could destroy were ones with the morphin grid. So he destroys all these worlds, and Promethea has the green psycho dagger, and somehow that like basically ejects them from the realities with the morphin grid into one without the morphin grid. So now they're stuck in a reality that doesn't have the morphin grid, and they have a limited number of morphs because of that, and they're like stuck in space. So I think it's a really cool situation they're stuck in, and especially because we have a ragtag team of rangers, or we essentially have rangers from like pretty much any series, any good series as well, I might add. And we're stuck with all these rangers, and basically we only have a few that can morph as well. So we're put, as I said, in an interesting situation. We're stuck in a world with no morphin grid. They have no help. They only have a certain number of rangers that can morph. The situation seems dire. I think they're in there for like 40 days or like a month or something like that. So they're stuck in this world, and all that happens really, not much really happens in the issue. It's just a lot of setup, but I think that's fine.
then what happens is they get a distress call. So they go out to help this distress call because obviously they don't know what's going on, they don't know where they are, so they want to try to save whoever's here and they can probably get answers. But when there are it's 5 or 6 rangers that can morph and Corone stays back, they go to the ship. Yeah, so 5 rangers go to the ship, Corone stays back, and they don't see anyone there. And then there's these weird like music notes that are shown on the screen that signify the Solar Ranger. So the Solar Ranger, literally, I didn't expect the Solar Ranger to debut this quick. We got sneak peeks of it at the what was it, Power Morphicon. We got sneak peeks at Power Morphicon, but that was about it. I didn't think it was gonna debut this early. Maybe they said it was, but I wasn't paying attention. But it debuted literally in this episode, or she debuted. It's a girl, so she debuted literally in this episode sooner than I thought. And the Solar Ranger makes a cool debut, but we don't really know a lot. All that she does is she shows up to Promethea, or Terraventure, I guess, but I'm gonna call it Promethea since it's still technically Promethea. So she shows up to Promethea and has this weird like wrist gauntlet thing, and essentially I think she just steals Corone's powers and probably maybe the energy around as well. But she's like kind of glitching. Like she looks like kind of like I guess let's link this to Kamen Rider. She looks kind of like the time trackers when they freeze time and everything's just kind of shaking. She looks like that. So she's kind of like glitching in and out, kind of like the glitch effect I use on YouTube. She kind of looks like she's stuck in that. So basically, she's stuck in this kind of glitch effect, and until she sucks up Corone's powers, then when she sucks up Corone's powers, then she's perfectly fine. And then I think she just leaves to her own ship, and then we see on the distress call ship, the other rangers are stuck. So, I don't know, this leaves a lot of questions up in the air. I don't really know what to think about obviously the Solar Ranger is maybe not entirely evil. She probably is just out for her own gain. I'm going to assume, I'm calling it now, the Solar Ranger is not a ranger we know. It just seems a little strange that a ranger we already know is for some reason out in this void of nothingness, a morphing gridless dimension. Why would a ranger be there? So this is a different kind of Power Ranger. This is probably a different kind of person. So I don't know what's going on here, but we do leave on an interesting note with all the rangers stuck in this base and they don't have their powers. So we're gonna have to either see them fight powerless or they just leave. They probably should just leave because there's a lot of scary things in that last comic panel. And I just want to talk really quickly about the art. The art for Boom Studios, man, hasn't been going down. I'm sorry. But like the first few issues, it was really, really nice art. Then it kind of took a weird turn. Then it Shattered Grid. It got pretty good. It was strange at some parts, but I think it was pretty decent. This comic art is just kind of weird. Like, rangers in their suits look really cool, but certain images of people look weird. Like, there's this weird shadow. Everyone has this weird expression on their face. And the comic layout of this or the panel layout at least, was really weird. It felt like slanted, and I didn't really know, like, where am I starting when I read this? Like, oh, I'll start here. Oh no, I needed to start here. Well, thanks for telling me, or at least, like, you know, that's why comics are set up in a nice and orderly fashion, unless it's a nice page. But honestly, those are just my only complaints. Not much happens in this issue, but it's a setup issue. It's our first issue. Next couple issues, we're gonna get into some actual stuff here. So overall, I thought, not Shattered Grid, I almost said Shattered Grid. Overall, I thought Beyond the Grid was just pretty good.
So I'm not even gonna do a ranking for this month. Honestly, I thought everything was pretty good. I didn't hate anything. Nothing was really that terrible. There were no episodes in any shows that I absolutely hated. Honestly, so I'm gonna file this under meh, because nothing else was also amazing. Nothing was amazing. Nothing was terrible. So just a meh all around. Mehs all around for everyone. So that's about it for this episode of Talking Jujube. Sorry for the huge lack of videos lately. I haven't been getting a lot of time to work on videos. I'm going to try my best to get some videos out soon. So stay tuned for that. And please check out the Twitter and Discord accounts if you want to stay connected with me and talk with me about other episodes. I can talk with you about episodes weekly, but I'll still do this also monthly. So if you're new here, please consider hitting that big fat subscribe button for more videos. And I hope to see you next time. Thank you for watching.